welcome to the BPD Bunch Brunch, where we get together with our favorite brunchy beverages to catch up, play games, and talk about all things BPD. I'm your host, Xannie, and today I am here with Georgette, Jay, Solène, and Darren. Where in the world is everyone coming from, and what is your brunchy beverage for the day?
I'm coming from New Jersey in the United States, and I have two. I have tea and I have water.
I'm coming from Calgary in Canada, and I have juice.
I'm joining from Dubai in UAE, and I have some water.
London, England, and last dregs of an espresso.
Ooh, that looks so fancy. I'm coming from Albuquerque, New Mexico in the United States, and I was triple fisting it. I guess I'm almost done with my water. But I have water, coffee, and Coca-Cola in a wine glass because who says only alcohol goes in there, right?
That's like my kids. They grab, somebody bought me expensive champagne glasses, and my kids insist that's where they need to drink orange juice.
I love drinking out of fancy cups. I feel like it makes life more exciting. Speaking of life, in so many of our episodes, we're always talking about how things used to be and how we got to be where we are now, but we don't often get a chance to talk about some of the things that we're currently experiencing as people in functional recovery from borderline personality disorder. So today we are going to talk about some of those things. Georgette, I know you have some exciting news to share.
Yeah, I do. So I recently completed a custody evaluation in our divorce process that took just about a year. And I was granted my 50-50 custody of my kids. So I'm really excited. Yay! They've been spending weekends with me. It's been lovely. And my two little ones, they have a room. I'm actually sitting in their room. But they insist on sleeping with me in my bed. So I love it. I'm like a kid sandwich. The two older ones sleep in their own rooms, but my younger ones are doing that. So it's been it's been lovely, but it's also big adjustment, I think, for everybody. So that's what I'm currently dealing with, that adjustment of going from visiting my home to actually residing half the time in my home. So
what are some of the biggest adjustments that you've had to figure out?
I think spending more time with the kids and kind of being stepping back into a more parental role, figuring out what are the rules in mom's house? What rules do we have? How are they enforced? Dealing with the kids when they're, inevitably being kids and they're emotional and they're screaming or yelling or bickering. It brings up a lot of emotions for me. I get super anxious. I have a very hard time dealing with my children being upset. I want to fix it. I've learned all these skills. Now I have to practice them in real time. And it's hard. It's hard because it's a lot of I need to use distress tolerance to get through a moment when everybody's mom, somebody's kicking me, somebody's doing this, they have the cat, it's a lot. I have 4 children. It's a lot coming at me. So it's overstimulating for me. And then having to deal with the emotions that come up in the moment and use distress tolerance that I can use in the moment. I can't say that I do it great every time. But I'm learning a lot of paced breathing, a lot of stop, which is stop, take a break, observe, and proceed mindfully. And then sometimes just going into my room for a few minutes and checking out so that I can come back in a different way. So yeah, it's a big adjustment, but it's for wonderful reasons. So keeping that in mind.
I'm so happy for you.
I'm so happy too. I'm just very happy. I felt like a different person. And I've had just such a sense of more peace and accomplishment. And I just feel like I've turned a corner and now I'm moving in a totally different direction in life. And I'm very thankful that I made it through this long so that I could experience this, the good and the bad of it.
So, one of the things that's interesting about my journey with functional recovery is like I kind of feel like at some point I stopped really worrying about BPD and just how can I get the most out of my life and be like the best possible version of myself. So I still go to therapy on a regular basis, and sometimes my sessions are like I'm just telling her about the BPD bunch, about life, and there's not really a lot of work being done. It's just having somebody outside of my personal life who I can talk to. But then there are other times where I start talking about something thinking that it's of no consequence, and then all of a sudden I have some sort of epiphany. And a couple of weeks ago, I had this thought of what my inner critic was like when I had a severe eating disorder. And it was like living with somebody who only ever has negative things to say about you. You're fat and ugly and no one loves you. All of these just horrible, vile, venomous things. I had this epiphany that my greatest fear is me. I realized that I'm terrified of potentially being in a position of having to live with that voice so loud in my head. The things that I'm really the most afraid of are me. Not being able to control myself, not being able to handle my own emotions. You know, this kind of just like catastrophizing place, because I've been doing pretty well for so long now that it's like, can I handle it when shit hits the fan? Will I be able to adapt when things change, as they inevitably will? At first, it was really depressing and kind of shocking to have this realization. But then I started thinking more about it, and I realized that, in a way, it's kind of a positive, because out of all the things that I could control in the world, myself is at the top of that list. I mean, I can't control myself that well, but like out of all the things, I have the most control over me. I haven't totally figured it out yet, but the thing that stands out to me about this whole experience is that 5 years ago, having some sort of epiphany like this would have had me on the floor for weeks. I would have been like, oh, what am I going to do? Like, this is an impenetrable barrier. And the fact that I could sit with it and feel the emotions and also come up with an idea of how I'm going to deal with it moving forwards was huge. I wasn't able to do that before. I needed somebody else to tell me, this is how you can get out of it. But in one conversation with my therapist, by the end of the conversation, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to try to do and see if this works. And that was really exciting to me. And that kind of gave me the confidence that even though I don't know what the solution is yet, it's like, oh, I have grown. I'm able to handle it so much better than I used to.
Yeah, that's like a huge sign of growth. You're able to listen to your own wise mind.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the inner critic is the worst critic. Mm-hmm. It's really awful because it's hard to escape.
Yeah.
Well, and like with parenting, like with, whenever anything goes wrong now with the kids, I have that voice in my head telling me, you're never going to do this. You failed before. It's a really awful voice that resides inside of you. And so it's hard to ignore.
I've convinced myself that if I'm just mean enough to me, then that will motivate me to want to be different. But the reality is that I feel so defeated, it just sends me into a depression. And I can't remember who said this to me first, but I've had several conversations about this with different people in my life. And someone was like, you think maybe your inner critic's just scared?
Yeah. As you were talking, Xannie, it sounded to me, the first thought that came into my head was that, you're afraid. You're anticipating things being so bad that you're afraid that you won't be able to handle it. And also because you have BPD, and we all know, like, our emotions aren't like a 5 or a 6. Our emotions are like a 12 or a, negative 12.
Over 9,000.
Yes. That it's scary to think about feeling something that like a quote unquote normal person will feel as a very intense emotion, such as grief or loss. And so you anticipate that it's going to be off the charts for you, which is like really frightening, especially when you're at a point when you have been able to manage so that you kind of keep yourself on a level. Anticipating something that is going to be up here, I think, is really frightening.
Yeah.
Something that's like been a very big win for me this year is developing a level of or a sense of assertiveness. I used to be like a sponge, really. I would absorb criticism, or whether that was coming from myself or others, in any context, relationships, professional. And now I'm at a point where I will sit in front of a professor who's 40 years older than me or whatever, and has, you know, a lot of accolades, and I should be listening to them, and I will say like, oh, I don't agree with you actually, and this is why I don't agree with you. It seems almost small in a way, but it has so much potential to really shape my experience in not just a PhD program, but also with friendships. It's me showing up for myself, and for once, like, believing in what I'm doing, and that I'm not dense. I know what I'm doing. I'm in a PhD program for a reason. I'm doing the work that I'm doing for a reason, and that I can trust myself. I remember, talking to my mum about one of these situations with a professor a little while ago, and I remember saying to her, like, we're colleagues. I'm not the student. I'm not on the ground, and we're working together. They're not somebody that's done my work already. That's why I'm in a program, right? They're supposed to guide me through a process. They don't know my work better than I do. Otherwise, there would be no point in me doing it at all, because it's already been done. And these things have been really important, not just for my self-esteem, which is what I've mostly talked about so far, but also for like my ability to get what I want actually out of the things that I'm doing, the relationships that I'm having, and for them to work for me and not in spite of me. Like, even in relationships, I feel more able to now, like, go to my friends and say that wasn't cool and it didn't make me feel particularly great. And I never used to do that before. I think specifically over the last year, there's been a lot of people not really understanding the way that I work and the way that I am, and people thinking I'm too much, which we all probably relate to. But it being so kind of vicious and aggressive, a lot of what's been coming out around that. And I feel like now I'm just like, there's nothing wrong with me, actually. You're just not my people. And that's been so significant, because for years, I didn't think of it that way, and it tore me up in every level. But now, like, finally getting to a point where I walk through life with BPD, and it's a part of me and a friend in a way that can be a pain in the butt sometimes, but I don't feel so at the mercy of it anymore. And these kind of like transitions are really significant from where I was like a year ago. I think a lot of these things are making me feel a lot better about life, a lot more optimistic.
Yeah, it can be really hard to get the dose of assertiveness that is actually effective, like not too much, and not too little that in the end it doesn't work. So I'm just curious, like, when you started to be more assertive, do you have any tips for anyone watching or for me who's thinking, okay, I want to start doing some of that? So how did you approach it, or what worked for you?
The first thing is I always have to step back from a situation. If it's possible to do that, sometimes things occur in the meeting or the conversation, and then I have to consciously decide, am I going to be assertive on this? Am I going to double down, or am I going to back up? But if that's not the case, I always step back, because I have to give myself a minute to enter the middle ground, right? Like, I can't be really emotionally charged. And I think acknowledging that first in any interaction is really important. You can't go in there all guns blazing. I think that's been really helpful for me. I think as well, going into like any kind of meeting or conversation, knowing why you're having it and what it is that you want to get out of it. There's this one specific example where somebody had an issue with me saying that I had done well at something, or that I had got an award for something. And I was told to like not talk about that because it could upset other people around me, or make them feel bad or insignificant or whatnot. That was a difficult conversation for me for two reasons. One, because I consider myself pretty compassionate, so it made me feel bad that I could hurt somebody, first of all. But in second, it was also, I felt a little bit like, why do I always feel like I'm being put down? I always get kicked down even when I'm doing good. It's like I can't win. That was a predominant feeling that I had. So when I went into this conversation with this person about this, I really had to stand firm on what I felt and why, and I listened. I think that's the other important thing when you're trying to be assertive, is like actively listen, because it will reinforce why you're saying what you're saying for yourself in the process. It makes it easier for you to commit to your line. Do you know what I mean? Or allow you to change course if that's appropriate. But, you know, in this context, it just enabled me to like double down and say, I think I ended up saying something like, I think it's sad that we're at this point in academia where we're telling people to be quiet about their accomplishments rather than telling people to just be happy for each other, that we're doing one and not the other. Because if other people around me were getting awards, I would sing their praises. I wouldn't be bitter. Even if I felt internally like, oh, screw it, I wish I'd got bad. That's a different kind of feeling. It's not about them, you know? That's about me and how I feel about my own success. So I don't know if anyone else has this experience, especially in like recovery and therapy, but I find that I just, sometimes I don't need to think so consciously about it. After like putting things into practice in therapy and stuff, it sort of just seems to slot into place now. And that's something that applies to this specific case. When I say I don't think about it, I mean that I don't sit down and go like, it's not like a conversation I have with myself about I need to strategically do X in order to make this conversation function. It's more that like I do think about it. I'm an extremely pensive person. I think about things all the time, like most of us, right? We're all overthinkers probably to some extent. So I definitely think about it, and I definitely would plan this conversation out in my head. But I think personally, if you go in there with like you know what you want from the conversation, I find it comes quite naturally because I don't feel it's not forced. Like I know why I'm there talking to her and why I'm standing up for this thing. So I feel like it just unfolds a bit more naturally. And I think it's probably fair for me to say as well that it does help that the people that I'm having these conversations with are not necessarily people that intimidate me. They're people that I can have that conversation with, and they're not going to scream at me or like get annoyed that I'm challenging them. So I do think it's important. Maybe I should have mentioned that before, because there are situations where that would be difficult, you know.
Darren, you're still quiet. What are you thinking?
I guess trying to find something interesting about my year. I think probably, it's growth again, isn't it? I mean, the minute you stop growing, the minute you stop developing, give it all up is really, you know, so this year, another year of growth, and just sort of steering myself up now to what is probably the most difficult time of year for me, you know, sort of around losing family members and stuff like that. And, you know, it's a time when everyone's together as a family. So it's sort of putting myself to good use at this time of year. But, you know, that's not to say it's sad. What it means is that I can now focus on those people who do want me in their lives and do want me around. And that means my network of friends and a variety of friends, different groups. Back traveling with a lot of them, back going to gigs with another group of them, and you know, a 30-year reunion this year, a couple of months ago, that was incredibly painful, but also incredibly needed, and it sort of solidified a lot of relationships that even back then weren't as strong as they are now. So, you know, I think all in all, a year well done for me.
How's your team been doing?
Well, it's not about results, it's about the experience.
Wait, what kind of team? Like a sports team?
Yeah, so I follow Wales, which is my national team, but it's more than just following the team. It's the fact that nobody else lives in London anymore. Everyone either lives back home in Wales or in various other cities. So it's an opportunity for us all to get together. It's the one chance I now get to speak Welsh again, so that's really important for me. It's nice to be amongst my own people without that sounding like as sort of a bit sort of Brexity, but it's that sort of, just being amongst sort of people of a similar thought and mindset. And it's also us going on adventures together. And no matter what age you are, we all still want to go on adventures. Long may that live.
So have you gone to any of the games?
Yeah, I've not missed a game since 2003.
Of songs?
So I've basically covered... I've done every country in Europe, even the ones that aren't the UN recognised, which is an interesting story. And also then probably a lot of the globe. I mean, furthest east was watching them in China, furthest west within LA. So yeah, it's a chance to go the world with our small little country.
That's so cool. Solène, I feel like you've had like a lot of stuff going on and I want to hear about it.
Oh, I've been sitting on mine because I feel like it's hard to. It's been a really hard work week for me. So several different sessions. So I run a lot of workshops and things like that. I do a lot of training around neurodiversity, mental health, from a place of lived experience. And a few of the sessions didn't go as well as I wanted, and particularly the one yesterday. So there's a place in the session where it's people can give some feedback, and they do that live on the screen whilst I'm sharing the screen. So there's nearly 100 people in the session, and it's how would you summarize the session in one word? And lots of people wrote lots of nice things, don't get me wrong. Maybe it's good to say that for balance and to remind my brain. But one person wrote the word appalling, and it was yesterday, and it's affected me so much to the point that it's made me think, how much in functional recovery am I? I hit a complete skills break, basically. So 2 things that I did that I've never done before is, 1, allow myself to cry a lot. Normally I would just be let's just get on with it. There's too much to do. I have so much work. I don't have time for this emotions. Just keep going, move on. What is the solution? What can I do? Maybe I need to change career. Just, impulsive, just do whatever. So I've been sitting with just feeling super, super devastated about it. And the other thing is reaching out to Xannie and to a few other people about it, and that's been really good because normally I would just sit by myself and just sit with the inner critic, the voice we've talked about before. She's definitely very loud these days. It goes I failed, I am a failure, I'm not worthy, I'm a piece of shit, I deserve to die. And that used to be a highway in my head. And it had been a long time that I had not walked on that road in my own head. And it's fucking terrifying. And it makes you feel how far have I actually come? And maybe that's the difference, is that I know that I'm not gonna engage in those behaviors. I know that I want to live. I know that I'm still here and I still want to be here. I need to find a way to learn not to take these kind of comments, because if I keep doing this work, if I keep showing up, I know these kind of comments will show up. And actually, if they do show up, it means that I'm touching people that are outside of our bubble, which is a good thing, because maybe some of them, there were some comments on there, people are saying thanks so much, I'm gonna explore getting diagnosed. I always thought I had ADHD, I had autism, So it's obviously also having a positive impact. So you're bound to touch the limits of that. And I think what I really need to figure out is, how do I protect myself in the process? So I can receive it. I can look at it, I can be okay, can I do something with appalling? No. What are you supposed to do with that? But maybe there will be other things. Yes, I can do something, I can adjust, I can learn.
I also feel like you're allowed to feel. you know? I don't think anyone should be too harsh with themselves or see like getting upset with something as indicative of anything about the process of recovery. And that's a hard pill for even me to swallow for myself. The minute that I had a bit of I don't even feel like relapse the right word, but like I had a moment where I went back into like a crisis period. That's all that went through my head. It was like, right, well, that's it. Past like 2 years or whatever is a complete waste of time. So I really understand it, but you know, we're allowed to feel, and those comments can upset us. And I don't even know if I need to like have a reason, you know, for it. It did what it did. You won't please every single person in a room of 100. And if you do, you're quite the magician. So you're amazing and your record speaks for itself. So screw the rest of them.
And that's the silver lining in all of this, is to find people who get it, you know, you get it. And that's, you know, a lot of people previously, especially growing up, would tell me, you know, you're overreacting. It's no big deal. I mean, it's one person. Just get over it, you know, move on. And not really understand that, yes, on a rational level, I can hear all that. I can get all that. I'm with it. And I would say the same to my friends, to my family, if it happened to them. On an emotional level, I need more time, and that's okay. And that's what I'm really taking from this, is like, it's okay to give myself like the space to feel all the feelings. It doesn't mean that I've undone 2 years of growth. It just means that, you know, I'm emotionally reacting to this event, a specific event. And then once I am ready to then check the facts and also talk to trusted sources who get it, to reframe. I think that's one of the big things, is reframing what's being said into a wider context, and with lots of different possible explanations that could explain it, until I have more information, and I will seek that as well. So yeah.
I used to feel so insecure, like during my masters in particular, about like my abilities and all of this stuff. And I used to really let like people's comments really hit me. And then I think, you know, I don't know, I feel like you kind of get to a point where it's like, for every one person that has a problem and a complaint or something to whine about, there's 100 people that really need you to be doing the work that you're doing. So that's why you do it. And everyone else in the room that was there wanted to hear what you were telling them. So the fact that these 3 people, one person, whoever it was, acted that way, okay, well, maybe you weren't engaging to begin with then, because you're on the wrong wavelength and not on you're not where the other 97 people are, you know. So not that they have to have the same perspective, but you know what I'm saying, right? So what we're getting from this, Solène, is you're fabulous, we love you, these people are trash, and feel your feelings.
Thank you, everyone, so much for watching, and we hope that you got a nugget of joy, wisdom, and healing from this episode. Like, subscribe, turn on your notifications so you do not miss a single update, and we will see you next time. Bye. Bye. The end.